21 black celebrities who had strange jobs before they were famous. Amazement, admiration, and deep reflection are the emotions I feel after researching and learning about more than 100 famous black figures connected to incredibly arduous and sometimes strange ways of making a living before they reach the pinnacle of glory. This profoundly affects how we perceive the value of persistent labor, and it might leave you truly astonished. This video is perfectly suited to play while you are resting, enjoying a meal with your family, or leisurely doing housework. All the information in this video has been researched and gathered from various sources. If there are any shortcomings, please leave a comment below to help our channel grow even better. Please follow the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell to receive our earliest videos. Now, let us step right into our first figures. Beyoncé. When mentioning Beyoncé, the world immediately envisions a gorgeous, powerful queen bee with dozens of Grammy Awards and the most spectacular stages on the planet. However, few know that her foundation of iron discipline was not forged in lavish art academies, but began with sweeps of a broom-clearing hair clippings at her mother's, Ms. Tina Knowles' hair salon in Houston, Texas. Since she was a little girl, instead of playing like her peers, Beyoncé had to diligently clean the floor of hair and styling products after every busy shift. Her salary at that time consisted only of the sparse tips left by customers. From a sociological, analytical perspective, an African-American hair salon is not merely a place of business. It is a cultural communication hub, a safe space where women of color share the bittersweet moments of life. I believe that for a little girl like Beyoncé to stand quietly in the corner of the room, sweeping while observing hundreds of lives coming and going every day, was the most wonderful real-world school. She learned how to listen, learned empathy, and deeply understood both the beauty and the sorrow of women. The meticulousness and patience of cleaning every scattered strand of hair formed Beyoncé's extreme perfectionism later on. For our older audience, those who always value moral cultivation through manual labor, Beyoncé's story brings a highly profound message. She never hides or feels ashamed of this past. On the contrary, she proudly affirms that those very days holding a broom taught her the lesson of humility and respect for labor. Bending down to clean a floor is exactly the most solid preparatory step to one day holding your head high and stepping onto great stages. Beyoncé has proven that the most brilliant aura is always lit from the most humble jobs, as long as you do them with utmost dedication. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is now a billionaire and one of the most powerfully influential thought leaders globally. Her life is an encyclopedia of rising from the mud of poverty and mistreatment. However, there is a highly special piece of the puzzle in Oprah's childhood that few mention: the job of blowing soap bubbles at an amusement park in Nashville in the late 60s. With a meager salary of less than $1 an hour, the task of 14-year-old Oprah at that time was to stand under the harsh sun of the American South, using hands blistered by soap solutions to create clusters of bubbles to entertain passing visitors. Let us place this story into its historical context. The late 60s was a period when the civil rights movement in America was taking place with immense tension. For a poor black girl to have to do entertainment work in public areas was not only a draining of labor, but also came with disdainful looks and demeaning words from a segment of society carrying heavy racial prejudice. I assess that the contrast between the fragile, vain beauty of the soap bubbles and the severe, unforgiving reality Oprah had to bear is an incredibly highly metaphorical image. No matter how beautiful a bubble is, it will burst just like unrealistic illusions. Only inner strength is what endures. With audiences who have experienced the many ups and downs of the times, this unusual job of Oprah's is not just a difficult memory of making a living. Right at that noisy park, She trained herself in a sharp ability to observe people. She learned how to read the expressions of the crowd, understood what makes a child smile and what makes an adult slow their steps. The invaluable psychological lessons gathered from the job of blowing soap bubbles became the solid foundation for her later to build a multi-billion-dollar television empire where she uses words and empathy to heal millions of hearts worldwide. Morgan Freeman, possessing a deep, resonant voice that is so iconic it is frequently chosen by Hollywood for the roles of God. Morgan Freeman is an irreplaceable monument of world cinema. However, before that voice was admired by millions, it was once buried in the deafening noise and thick dust of a carpentry shop in Mississippi in the 1950s. The young man Morgan at that time took on the most menial job, a sweeping attendant. His daily task was to scoop up sawdust, clean up wood scraps, and wipe down machinery for a cheap wage, living under the orders and sometimes the condescending attitudes of the white shop owners. To fully understand the greatness of Morgan Freeman, we must understand the harshness of the American South during the era when Jim Crow segregation laws were still present. For a poor young man of color, the future seemed nailed to the most arduous, darkest manual labor jobs. I believe that Morgan's greatness does not lie in suddenly encountering a miracle, but in his extraordinary endurance. He did not let the layer of sawdust blur his vision. In the very solitude and tedium of holding a broom, sweeping wooden floors over and over again, he forged for himself patience, calmness, and a measured rhythm of life, something that later fully permeated his peak acting style. Older audiences will surely find deep empathy in Morgan Freeman's story. He is a typical representative of the generation of men who rose from empty hands, not blaming fate, not giving up in the face of injustice. The job of sweeping the wood shop deeply engraved in his soul and empathy for the poor laborers at the bottom of society. Thanks to those days of tasting bitterness every time Morgan Freeman raises his voice, people not only hear acting technique, but also hear the echo of an entire past full of ups and downs, hearing the majesty of a person who walked through the darkness to personally light the most brilliant light of a human life. Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, is not only one of the greatest rappers in music history, but also a self-made billionaire with a massive fortune spanning music, fashion, and sports business. When looking at his massive Roc Nation empire today, few could imagine that this billionaire's first office was a windy, bone-chilling street corner in the slums of Brooklyn, New York. In his teens, to help his family struggling with surrounding poverty, Jay-Z had to stand on the street, selling single newspapers to passers-by. He had to use all his strength to shout out catchy headlines, trying to attract the attention of hurried pedestrians for a wage counted only in pennies. Through the lens of economic and street culture analysis, the job of selling newspapers is not as simple as its outward appearance. In an area full of challenges and fierce competition like Brooklyn in the 80s, successfully selling a newspaper required you to have supreme persuasion skills, the ability to grasp customer psychology in just 3 short seconds, and a captivating rhythm of speech. I assess that those very noisy street corners were the most perfect launchpad for Jay-Z's rap career. The incredibly smooth rhythmic flow, the sharp wordplay technique, and the peak storytelling ability in his music were actually honed from those afternoons, standing shouting out the news to strangers. For audiences who have experienced the business world, Jay-Z's story is an excellent testament to an entrepreneurial mindset. He did not view selling newspapers as a humiliation of poverty. He viewed it as an introductory lesson on the laws of supply and demand. From selling every single paper, he learned how to build a brand, how to negotiate, and how to turn every adversity into a profitable opportunity. Jay-Z showed the whole world that If you can survive and convince a stranger to buy a newspaper on the harshest street in New York, you absolutely have enough bravery to run billion-dollar corporations and make the world listen to you. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey is the definition of a true diva who possesses an incredibly famous voice with a range spanning 5 octaves and a legendary whistle register. Her singing voice is likened to one of the most exquisite and expensive instruments in the music industry. Yet, it is highly ironic and somewhat sorrowful to know that before becoming a global icon, the young girl Mariah had to bury her angelic musical notes in a manufacturing plant for sirens. Her task was to test the sound and package devices emitting piercing, ear-splitting wails in a dusty and suffocating industrial space in suburban New York. Let us analyze the severe irony of this circumstance. A person born with a gift from the Creator, a singing voice as smooth and soaring as an angel's, had to spend 8 hours every day enduring the most rough, noisy, and hearing-damaging mechanical sounds. I believe the job at the siren manufacturing plant was exactly the most rigorous test that destiny had for Mariah Carey. That was not only a physical draining of energy, but also a psychological challenge. Having to preserve and nurture an artistic dream in an unhealthy industrial environment where no one cared about art required an incredibly resilient willpower to live. With our older audience, those who always cherish training to overcome adversity. Mariah Carey's story is a beautiful song about willpower. She did not let those piercing sirens drown out the voice of her soul. During short breaks, instead of resting, she still quietly hummed self-composed melodies, protecting her vocal cords from the layer of dust. Mariah Carey proves that the brightest diamonds are always formed under the most tremendous pressures. The noisier and darker the environment, the more solid a launch pad it makes, so that when she raises her voice, the whole world must fall silent and immerse themselves in the greatness of a legend. Kanye West. Kanye West is one of the greatest yet most controversial creative minds of the 21st century. Audiences know him as a music production genius and a billionaire who reshaped the global fashion empire with the Yeezy brand. However, the seeds for that peak aesthetic mindset were sown from an incredibly humble job, a discount sign artist at a small grocery store in Chicago when he was just 15 years old. Every day, Kanye had to sit on the cold tile floor using strong-smelling markers to meticulously and carefully draw every number, every letter on vibrant cardboard signs. Through the lens of visual art analysis, this job is not ordinary at all. To a normal person, it is just writing the price, 99 cents for 3 packs of noodles. But to a genius mind like Kanye's, it was an introductory class on typography color theory and how to capture the public's gaze visually. I assert that the repetition of drawing bold lines forged in him extraordinary patience and a perfectionist mindset to the point of extreme. While his hands swiftly moved the brush, his mind freely wandered into the most complex musical beats. For mature audiences, Kanye West's story carries an invaluable educational value regarding the foundation of greatness. Today's youth often desire instant fame, but they forget that to build a multi-billion-dollar empire, one must start from polishing the smallest details. Kanye did not view drawing discount signs as destitution. He turned it into a personal art practice studio. The meticulousness and layout arrangement skills from those cheap cardboard signs of the past were exactly the solid premise for him to create spectacular music stages and fashion collections that shook the entire world later on. Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is a fierce feminist icon who single-handedly broke the male monopoly in the hip-hop industry to rise to become the most successful female rapper of all time. With gorgeous outfits covered in designer brands and the demeanor of a queen, it is hard to believe that her very first job to make a living in New York was driving a garbage truck. To help her family escape poverty, the young girl Nikki had to personally steer a giant truck weaving through the cramped alleys of Queens, facing strong odors and the harshest realities of the working class at the bottom of society. Let us analyze the psychological correlation between this job and her career. The hip-hop world is inherently a world full of intense competition, disrespect for women, and sharp words of attack. I assess that there is no school that trains survival bravery better than being a female garbage truck driver in the heart of New York. That job stripped away all vanity, forcing her to forge a layer of skin thick enough to ignore all prejudices of the world. The physical endurance and emotional resilience when having to clean up things discarded by society forged a fearless Nicki Minaj. With audiences who have tasted the bitterness of making a living, Nicki Minaj's past is an eloquent testament to the power of resilience. She did not let that manual job define her human value. On the contrary, the very days gripping the steering wheel of that rough garbage truck provided her with the most authentic, edgiest material to put into her highly narrative rap tracks later on. Nicki Minaj taught the world a costly lesson. You cannot build a gorgeous kingdom if you have never known how to clean up ruins. From streets full of refuse to the peak of fame, her bravery is something no force can topple. Halle Berry. Halle Berry is an exquisite beauty, a historical monument as the first and only black woman to date to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. Behind the roles with complex psychological depth that leave viewers haunted is an incredibly simple launchpad, a children's clothing salesperson at a small store in Cleveland. With a salary of $2 an hour in the 80s, Holly had to stand continuously on her feet every day, folding every shirt, rearranging the shelves, and facing all types of customer personalities, from demanding mothers to crying children. From a psychological perspective, the retail service industry is always one of the environments that most heavily wears down human emotions, but at the same time, it is also a wonderful behavioral laboratory. I believe that for a talented actress like Halle Berry, the children's clothing store was a theater stage without a script. To sell items and soothe throwing tantrum children, she was forced to learn how to observe micro-expressions, learn how to restrain her ego, and hone the ability to instantly role-play to satisfy the person opposite her. That ultimate empathy skill cannot be acquired just by sitting and reading books in glamorous acting academies. For middle-aged audiences who have worked in service jobs, Halle Berry's story brings an immense amount of respect. Dealing with ironic situations at the store trained her to have a nervous system of steel and sharpness in analyzing human psychology. It is precisely because she understood so well the everyday joys, angers, loves, and sorrows of the common class that when stepping onto the silver screen, Halle Berry could brilliantly transform into characters carrying many emotional wounds. She proved that the most precious lessons about the art of acting are sometimes not found in Hollywood, but right amidst messy clothing racks and the simple cries and laughs of making a living. Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg is one of the rare 19 people in the world to possess the complete set of the 4 most prestigious art awards in America, EGOT. She is famous for her wisdom, sharp thinking, and deeply satirical comedy pieces. Yet behind that trademark smile is one of the most astonishing and philosophical career experiences, a mortuary cosmetologist makeup artist for the departed at a funeral home in New York. In the quiet, chilly, and haunting space of the quiet rooms, Whoopi's task was to carefully apply powder lipstick, comb hair, and restore the most peaceful appearance for the departed before they were brought to their final resting place by their families. Let us analyze the psychological depth of this job. Having to face mortality every day requires a nervous system of steel and an ultimate stillness in the soul. I assert that a young person like Whoopi Goldberg choosing to work at a funeral home completely reshaped her worldview. When you touch the fragile boundary between life and passing every day, you realize all human fame, wealth, or petty grievances become meaningless. To overcome the psychological weight of the job, Whoopi chose to use dark humor. Her laughter is not superficiality, it is a life preserver so humans can continue to live and cherish every present breath. Older audiences, those who have deeply understood the rules of birth, aging, illness, and passing, will surely greatly admire the humanistic depth in Whoopi Goldberg's past. She brought final dignity to those who had passed on. The very stillness of those quiet rooms honed for Whoopi a calmness, a tolerant gaze, and a wisdom beyond her time. Thanks to the experience of facing mortality, Whoopi's roles and humorous quotes on television always carry a deep philosophical weight, teaching us how to smile and cherish this life before everything turns to dust. Dwyane Wade, revered by fans with the nickname The Flash, is an immortal monument of the NBA with 3 championships and an illustrious career. The incredible physical strength and wind-tearing accelerations on the hardwood court were actually fueled by the days of wearing out his shoe soles walking on the harsh streets of Chicago. At the age of 15, to earn money to help his mother, who was struggling with countless difficulties, Dwyane took on the job of passing out flyers for a cheap wage, 50 cents, for an hour of work. He had to stand under the scorching heat of summer, weaving through the hurried crowds, extending his hand only to receive quite a few cold waves and being ignored by people. From the perspective of analyzing the forging of willpower, the job of passing out flyers is a severe test of self-respect and endurance. For a growing boy, continuously being rejected by strangers is a heavy blow to psychology. However, I evaluate that those very dusty street intersections became the perfect furnace for Dwyane Wade's warrior spirit. Thousands of hours walking tirelessly to finish handing out the stack of papers inadvertently built for him an abundant physical foundation. More importantly, it taught him how to face rejection without getting discouraged, an absolutely necessary survival skill to overcome bitter failures in top-tier sports. For audiences passionate about sports and clearly understanding the harshness of poverty, Dwyane Wade's journey is an inspiring epic. He did not have expensive training centers or luxurious designer shoes since childhood. He carried the callous humility and an intense desire to escape poverty from the day standing passing out flyers into every match. When Dwyane Wade soared through the air to execute a dunk, it was not just the elevation of sports, it was the rising up of a human being who had once been at the bottom of society, using his own sweat and indomitable will to force the whole world to acknowledge his name. Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is one of the greatest writers, poets, and civil rights activists of the 20th century. She is the voice representing the conscience of America, someone who used her pen to soothe the historical pains of the Black community. However, before her exquisitely beautiful literary works were taught at top universities, Maya had to go through a much harsher school, a busy street intersection in the 1940s. At the age of 16, to earn every single penny to make a living, she had to do the job of passing out flyers. Every day, the teenage girl Maya had to stand under the scorching sun, extending her hand to receive the ignorance, coldness, and sometimes the cruel disparagement of passersby. Through the lens of social psychology analysis, the job of passing out flyers during the period when Jim Crow segregation laws still weighed heavily on America was an experience that tremendously eroded human dignity. It turned a person into an invisible shadow amidst the crowd. However, I evaluate that this very invisibility granted Maya Angelou a great privilege, the privilege of observing the most rustic truth of humanity. Amidst the hurried flow of people, she quietly took into her eyes all joys, angers, loves, and sorrows, the selfishness, the apathy of parents ignoring their children's cries, and the deep loneliness of people in the city. For audiences who have weathered many of life's storms, Maya Angelou's journey is an invaluable lesson on transforming pain. She did not let the contempt of the world turn her heart callous or hateful. On the contrary, she gathered all the fragments of estrangement at that intersection, turning them into the most authentic material for the legendary autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Maya Angelou proved that the greatest art is not born in velvet and silk, but it sprouts from the very dusty sidewalks where the smallest people are silently fighting to claim their existence. Taraji P. Henson. Taraji P. Henson is a highly capable actress with a sharp gaze and an explosive feminist demeanor who took the screen by storm through blockbusters like Empire or Hidden Figures. To achieve the ability to enter a role brilliantly, fully portraying complex internal conflicts, Taraji had to pay the price with her youth trading, sweat, and tears. Before touching prestigious awards, she worked as a waitress on a luxury cruise ship for a meager salary. Every night, she had to carry heavy trays of food balance on high heels amidst the rocking waves and serve the upper class who were passionately enjoying a lavish life. Let us analyze the severe psychological contrast in this environment. The hospitality and cruise ship service industry is the place that most clearly exposes the class divide. The fact that a poor woman of color had to continuously bow, smile, and patiently serve customers who were sometimes unreasonable and bossy is a terrifying mental erosion. However, I assert that cruise ship was Taraji's first and most demanding film set. To survive and receive those meager tips, she was forced to become an excellent actress in real life itself. She learned how to swallow humiliation inward, putting on a radiant smile and a professional demeanor to the point that no one could see through the worry of making a living weighing heavily on the single mother's shoulders. With audiences who have had to brace themselves for a livelihood, Taraji P. Henson's story carries an intensely powerful, empathetic strength. She never let the serving apron define the limits of her life. It was precisely that ultimate emotional control ability, the art of wearing a mask to survive among the elite on the cruise ship, that became her sharpest weapon when stepping into Hollywood. Taraji taught us a truth. When you can smile the brightest in the moments you yourself want to collapse the most, there is no stage in this world that is too big for you. Her greatness is proof that true talent will always shine, whether in the waiter's cabin or on the boulevard of fame. Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson is one of the very few great artists to achieve the EGOT status, Oscar, Emmy, Grammy. Tony possessing a powerful voice that can shake any auditorium. Audiences see her shining gorgeously in Hollywood films, but few know that before donning designer evening gowns, Jennifer once wore the grease-smelling uniform of a fast food restaurant in Chicago. At the age of 18, her daily job was holding a rag to clean tables covered in ketchup-clearing trash and enduring the urging, judgmental looks of diners in a noisy, suffocating, and high-pressure environment. From the perspective of analyzing self-cultivation, the work environment at fast food chains is the easiest place to erode a person's self-esteem. Everything happens hurriedly, cheaply, and industrially. But I believe that for Jennifer Hudson, cleaning dirty dining tables was a training exercise in extreme humility. In a space chaotic with the noise of machinery and loud people, she created her own meditative realm by continuously humming melodies, protecting the most precious thing the Creator bestowed upon her, her singing voice. She did not let the sour smell of leftover food spoil the brilliant dream burning in her chest. Older audiences will surely deeply appreciate the iron-willed determination of Jennifer Hudson. The difference between a dreamer and a successful person is discipline. Jennifer did not use the excuse of poor circumstances to deny responsibility. She still excellently completed the job of wiping tables to earn honest money while silently polishing the gem of her voice every night. Jennifer Hudson's story is a song honoring the value of honest labor. It proves that whether you are holding a cleaning rag or an Oscar trophy in your hand, your value does not lie in the job you are doing, but lies in the pride and dignity you put into that job. Wanda Sykes? Wanda Sykes is one of the sharpest, smartest, and most beloved female stand-up comedians in America, having won a prestigious Emmy Award. Her performances always make audiences laugh uncontrollably because of her satirical, deeply sarcastic perspective on social issues. The origin of that charm and sharp gaze stemmed from a space full of mechanical noise, the strong smell of detergent, and a suffocating tedium, a public laundromat. In the early 1990s, Wanda once worked as an attendant here, in charge of cleaning, handling broken machines, and facing hundreds of customers every day. Analyzing through the lens of social psychology, a public laundromat is an incredibly specific space. It is a place where people bring the dirty laundry, both literally and figuratively, of their personal lives to expose. The customers coming here often bring fatigue and irritability because of having to wait for hours for a load of dry clothes. I assess that in such a frustrating and conflict-prone environment, humor is a defense mechanism and the most wonderful survival tool. Wanda Sykes did not choose to snap back at customers. Instead, she used her quick wit and sharp jokes to diffuse tension, turning customer complaints into refreshing bursts of laughter. For older audiences, humor is always a medicine to heal the bitterness of the times. Wanda Sykes turned the laundromat into a miniature comedy stage open mic. She observed the bad habits and trivial gossip of customers while they were folding clothes, molding them through her satirical lens to create the most authentic comedy material. Wanda Sykes proves that art is nowhere far away. It lies right in the most ordinary, tedious moments. The laughter she brought not only cleaned away the frustrations of customers, but also washed away prejudices, paving the way for her to step into the position of a highly powerful queen of comedy. Jesse Williams. Jesse Williams is not only the gallant Dr. Jackson Avery, who captivated millions of viewers in the series Grey's Anatomy, but he is also one of the most eloquent social activists in America. However, before standing on glorious speaking podiums to raise his voice, protecting the Black community, Jesse was once a teenager doing one of the most tedious jobs, a chair arranger at a local hall. Every day, after the stage lights went out and the crowd of audiences joyfully left, his job truly began. He quietly collected trash carried and neatly stacked thousands of heavy plastic chairs into the storage room for a wage of only a few dozen cents an hour. From the perspective of analyzing the stillness of the soul, the job of arranging hall chairs carries an incredibly profound metaphorical meaning. That is the job of people standing in the shadows, the silent heroes preparing the foundation for others to shine. I evaluate that the mechanical repetition of stacking chairs did not stunt Jesse's intellect at all. On the contrary, right in the quiet, empty space of the hall after every event, he had the opportunity to observe how people design a stage, how sound echoes in a large space, and how a crowd is captivated by the person standing on the speaking podium. He learned the structure of success from its remaining fragments. With mature audiences, the image of the boy Jesse Williams sweating while carrying each chair is a beautifully exquisite testament to patience. When you know how to bend down to arrange seats for others, you are training yourself in ultimate humility. No glory can be built without solid foundations on the ground. Jesse's story proves that the silent years of preparing the stage behind the scenes are exactly the most perfect stepping stone so that when the time comes, he can grandly step into the center of the light and loudly speak the truth of his life, making the whole world listen. Summer Walker. Summer Walker is one of the most successful contemporary R&B vocalists, possessing billion-view hits that specialize in portraying the dark, hidden corners, loneliness, and traumas in love. But before her music became a healing medicine for millions of fans, Summer was a young girl carrying severe social anxiety, working as a cleaner, scrubbing toilets at office buildings and residential homes to earn a living day by day. In baggy work uniforms, she worked quietly from morning till dusk, trying to avoid the gazes of everyone around to hide the deep insecurity in her soul. From a psychoanalytical perspective, the cleaning job for a person with social anxiety is an incredibly special healing space. This profession did not require her to communicate, did not force her to wear a smiling mask with anyone. It provided her with a quiet, solitary, and safe space. I assess that while her hands continuously scrubbed stubborn stains on the floor, Summer's mind was completely liberated. The loud noise of the vacuum cleaner or the trickling sound of water became foundational beats for her to hum and compose smooth melodies. She cleaned up the refuse of the material world while simultaneously using music to wash away the bleeding wounds in her own spiritual world. With older audiences who always highly value the stillness of the inner self, Summer Walker's journey brings a profound appreciation. She did not let the complex about a manual job crush her innate talent. Working as an invisible cleaner taught her the ability to sink deep into her inner world, observing her own pain most authentically. It was precisely the simplicity, rustic nature, and sometimes the extreme tedium of cleaning houses that created an R&B music full of narrative nature, unmixed with the impurities of commercial falsehood. Summer Walker proved that from the puddles on the floor, a resilient soul can still reflect the beauty of the stars. Gabourey Sidibe. Gabourey Sidibe made history in Hollywood when, right in her debut movie, Precious, she received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. Possessing an appearance that completely deviates from the standards of silver screen beauties with an oversized figure and dark skin, Gabourey broke all the harshest rules of the entertainment industry. However, before strutting on the red carpet of fame, her life was once confined to a space of less than 2 square meters, the ticket booth of a budget circus in New York. Every day, she sat behind the clear glass, collecting small change and tearing tickets for the eager streams of people entering to enjoy magical performances, while she herself was stuck in the tedious and poor real world outside. Let us analyze the psychological tear of being a gatekeeper to the joys of others. Sitting planted in a cramped ticket booth, watching others laughing and talking while going to see the circus is an experience that easily breeds self-pity. But I believe that to a sensitive and highly imaginative girl like Gabourey, that small glass window was exactly the most excellent real-life cinema screen. Thousands of faces passing by every day, from eager children, passionate lovers to irritable parents, provided her with a massive treasure trove of material on human expressions and behaviors. She learned acting not from books, but through observing the real lives passing by her ticket counter. For audiences who have ever felt left behind, Gabourey Sidibe's story is an invaluable source of encouragement. She did not let the glass of the ticket counter lock up her dreams tightly. Instead of being jealous of those who got to enter the circus, she turned the limitation in space into infinity in imagination. When the opportunity came, she used all the life perspective materials accumulated from the years of working as a ticket clerk to transform into the role in an incredibly brilliant, edgy, and haunting way. Gabourey taught us that even when you are standing in the lowest position, just keep your eyes wide open and keep your heart always vibrating, because the world out there always holds miracles for those who know how to patiently wait. Loni Love. Loni Love is an incredibly beloved comedian, writer, and TV host who won an Emmy Award thanks to her sharp, witty, and incredibly charming hosting style on the reel. To achieve that sharpness and brilliant punchline ability on stage, Lonnie had to go through strange and highly dangerous jobs to make a living, most notably retrieving golf balls at a driving range in Detroit. In her teens, instead of enjoying a peaceful childhood, Lonnie's task was to drive a small cart covered with wire mesh, sometimes running out into the middle of the field to gather thousands of golf balls flying by at dizzying speeds from the clubs of the upper class. Through the lens of analyzing psychological reflex training, the golf driving range is an arena full of satire. On one side are the wealthy, leisurely spending money to hit entertainment balls. On the other side is a poor black girl risking her health to retrieve them for a cheap wage. I evaluate that having to continuously observe the flight path of the balls to avoid being hit on the head trained Lonnie Love to have an outstanding sharpness, a superior neurological reflex speed. More importantly, to cope with the absurdity and sometimes the danger of the job, she chose laughter as her weapon. She started using humor to satirize the cruel class disparity taking place right on that lush green grass. With older audiences, those who always use optimism to overcome storms, Lonnie Love's story brings a deep empathy. Life is also like a golf driving range where calamities and difficulties can rush at you from any direction at any time. Lonnie Love turned the danger of the ball retrieving job into a survival lesson. You cannot stop others from hitting the ball towards you, but you absolutely can choose to dodge it in the most graceful way and even burst into laughter at the absurdity of the situation. It was this positive attitude toward life, using a smile to neutralize that harshness, that took Lonnie Love from an unknown ball retriever to becoming the comedy queen of American television. Steve Harvey. To close this inspiring list, no story carries a more profound philosophical weight than the past of Steve Harvey. Currently, he is one of the most powerful TV hosts in the world, a millionaire with a series of hit shows and globally best-selling books. However, in his late 20s, the age when a man should normally have a stable career, Steve Harvey lost everything. He divorced, went bankrupt, and had to live a vagabond life, sleeping roughly in a beat-up 1976 Ford Tempo for 3 whole years. To have money to buy food and maintain the dream of standing on the comedy stage at night during the day, he had to knock on every door to work as an insurance salesman, and the most strenuous was being a carpet cleaner. He had to kneel on the floor inhaling toxic chemicals and use his physical strength to scrub away the most stubborn stains left by others. Let us analyze the immense psychological weight of this event. For a grown man, not even having a roof over his head to return to, having to kneel to clean carpets for hire for others, is the ultimate humiliation and loss of self-respect. I assess that many people would choose to collapse, give up, or fall into vice in that circumstance. But not Steve Harvey. The cramped, cold Ford car was not a grave burying his dreams. It was the place where he prayed every night and forged an intense faith in God. Bending over to wash filthy carpets taught him the greatest lesson in humility. Only when you are willing to lower yourself to the very bottom of the mud will you appreciate the value of standing upright on the podium of glory. Middle-aged audiences, those who have tasted enough of the bitterness and sweetness of life, will surely be brought to tears by the extraordinary willpower of Steve Harvey. The sincere advice and understanding of human psychology that he brings to television today do not come from empty textbooks. They are crystallized from blood tears, hungry nights curled up in a car, and drops of sweat falling on the carpets of strangers. Steve Harvey's story is a steely affirmation. Failure is just a rest stop, not the final destination. As long as you still keep your faith and never stop working, the universe will definitely roll out the red carpet to. Ladies and gentlemen, the 21 stories just now are eloquent proof, showing that great success has never been a ready-made gift bestowed by heaven. Arduous manual jobs, drops of sweat, and even humiliations in the past are not shackles, but are exactly the most solid launch pads, forging the bravery, humility, and intellect of the world's top stars. The greatest lesson we receive today is the appreciation for every value of honest labor, and the immortal belief that no adversity can defeat human resilience. We wish you always have truly peaceful, joyful, and warm moments with your beloved family. If you love these inspiring stories, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to continue accompanying us in the next videos. Respectful greetings, and see you again